First Royal Green Jackets not available at the moment. Please leave your communication.
This is the Doctor. I'm terribly sorry, but I'm afraid that I'm about to die. The aliens are called the Shalka. They have a warp gate to their homeworld. Knock that out, and they may do a deal. I know you don't know much about me, Kenneth, and this is hardly the time to start a friendship, but just know this. I was finished anyway. Hopeless. I can't do this anymore. I got her killed. Again. It's not the first time. So it's out I don't continue. And I'm happy with that. I do, however, have some last words for the universe. They are... battery low...
Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and as always, I am joined with
Scott Who.
Yes, I am joined with Scott as we are concluding our look at the Scream of Shalka with parts 4, 5, and 6 this week. Sounds like a lot. They're very short episodes, so it's actually not as much as it sounds like. We covered last week's parts 1, 2, and 3, and I think we were probably more positive than negative. I would, there's definitely some stuff to like in this story, and there's some fun things to take away. It is not without flaws.
Oh yeah, of course.
There is certainly flaws.
It's hard to try and not look at this in a positive light because there was such good ambitions from the get-go. This is them realizing the BBC proper aren't actually going to do a 40th anniversary. This is a dedication of labor and love for the show. So it's hard not to be positive about it in hindsight.
Yeah, and it's fine. It's fine.
I gave it a 3 out of 10 on Letterboxd.
I gave it a 2.
Sorry, 3. I gave it a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Not 3 out of 10.
Out of 5. I gave it a 2 out of 5 because I do not like 3 is my standard. Like everything starts at 3. You can gain some stars or you can lose some stars based on basically how I feel going into it. Are you keeping my attention? Am I engaged? Did I think it was thrilling, exciting? Was I emotionally invested and stuff like that? Yes or no, depending. You're going to go up or down that scale. It gets 2 because I like the ambition. I like a lot of stuff in it. Doesn't keep my attention. Find it very dull at times.
Oh god, yeah. I was watching this earlier and my mind just could not focus on it, and I it's been a week and a day since we recorded on election night when we last recorded, which
goddamn yeah.
I feel like this current news cycle just made my brain deteriorate a little bit.
It's 4 years. It'll pass. Like all things, it'll pass. But whatever. America's gonna America. This is not to get too political about the U.S. politics, but this is COVID. Is 100% the only reason Trump didn't win a second term in 2020, and I almost wish he did, just so it would be over with. But we got that brief respite where we could be like, oh yeah. I guess this is what life is like when he's not in power. It's the same. Okay, sure, he can have another go. And again, nothing's going to happen. It's going to be full of scandals every week. There's going to be drama and fallout, and people are going to get... It's just going to be reality TV in the White House again, like it was last time. And then somebody else will take charge, and who gives a shit? Or he'll die or something. Who cares?
Yeah, crazy time, but also, I think it just deteriorated my brain because I don't remember too much of what happened in parts 1 to 3, so...
I don't really remember. That's interesting because I don't really remember what happens in parts 4, 5, and 6. Because I watched all 6 parts in one go when I watched them last week, and I have felt no desire to go back and refresh my memory to watch these again. So when we cover them on the show, because we watch as we talk about them, so when we do that, it's going to be like watching it for the first time again. Because I kind of remember how it ends. I don't really remember how they get there. So
there was a lot of screaming. I just remember that.
Yeah, there is a lot.
Shalka did scream.
They do definitely. Yeah, the title is not a lie.
But anyway, yeah, we have some preamble here yet again, and I promise you, the story will make sense in hindsight. It's a kind of a long ramble, so bear with me here. But we do have to talk about the infamous Ben Cook Doctor Who magazine interview session when he was doing interviews for this story, because it leads into how Doctor Who magazine has evolved over the last 2 decades. So Ben Cook, if you don't know, he's been a interviewer guy. He's an editor on Doctor Who magazine for a long time ago. He's kind of an infamous figure now because the lady who sang the Goblin song last Christmas, if you remember that classic tune, that
terrible song. Terrible song everybody pretended to like when it came out. Everybody was like, oh, this is so good. This is dog shit, like the rest of the Russell T Davies era was. It was terrible, and everyone's kidding themselves.
It's in my head now, just as we even mention it. It's
I
a
couldn't
jam.
tell you a single line. What was I don't even remember the beat. I don't remember the beat.
It's good. It's good. I'm not gonna sing it, but it's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, when that song hit the charts, the lady who was the singer for that song was very happy about the fact that she was like in the top 100 charts. And she misworded something. Apparently it was only in the download or streaming charts instead of the actual top 100. And Ben Cook was very quick to be pedantic and be like, oh, you're wrong, and stuff like that. And people got very upset with Ben Cook and wanted RTD to fire him for these tweets, even though who gives a shit? A snarky Doctor Who fan? Since when? You know, every fucking Doctor Who fan is snarky. Who the fuck gives a shit?
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, Ben Cook has been around, he's been a name in the Doctor Who sphere for a long time. And when he did this interview in 2003 for Scream of a Shalka, he just to go through the day he went through, So he arrives at the studio at 9:30 a.m. and he's told to wait in the green room, which is very, very normal stuff for a member of the press. 40 minutes later, he's told he can't go into the studio at all because Wilson Millum, the director, is worried that a journalist might make the actors uncomfortable. So yeah, 5 minutes later, he's told he's not even allowed in the green room. So he has to go and wait in the car park for around 20 minutes, but suddenly it starts raining, and so then he goes and waits inside a stationery cupboard for 2.5 hours. He's locked inside this stationery cupboard for 2.5 hours. Just
Jesus
sitting there,
Christ.
waiting for somebody to come out and say he can interview a member of the cast or the director or anyone involved in this production.
That's commitment.
So it's 1 o'clock at this point, and he's being told he won't even be allowed to interview Richard E. Grant. So he waits outside in the car park again. He's not even allowed to have any of the sandwiches which are catered to the cast. So no sandwiches for him, no lunch for him. He's like, I don't have any money on me. I don't know where the nearest shop is. I'm going to be starving for the rest of the day. So James Goss orders him lunch because he's a nice guy, apparently. James Goss is a commissioner of the animated webcasts, and he's currently a big player at Big Finish. He was the guy who did the Time Lord Victorious stuff, so he's been around for a long time in the Doctor Who universe. So at 1:35, after 4 hours of waiting and getting absolutely nowhere, it's finally decided that he's allowed to talk to Richard E. Grant after all. He's just not allowed to approach him. So basically somebody else has to be like, Richard E. Grant, can you go outside into the car park and do this interview with this journalist, Ben Cook? So it's like, what is going on here? So he talks to several people in the car park until 3:30, where it suddenly starts raining again. So he sneaks into the green room and watches some television, including the animated series Arthur. There's a whole like 5-page thing on Doctor Who magazine from 2003 about this, and it goes into really great detail about, especially the Arthur episode we were watching in the green room.
Interesting.
Which is
great show.
Kind of bizarre.
Great show.
I need to go back to it. It's a classic for sure.
I don't need to go back to it, but I definitely enjoyed it when I was like 8.
Oh no, it's just good vibes, and you're related to the main character.
I am. We do have the same last name, I think. Isn't he doesn't like read a book though? He's not Reed as in the same as me.
Well,
I don't remember. Arthur. I know he's Arthur Reed, but I'm pretty sure it was like Reed as in READ.
Oh wow, okay. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, because it's a pun.
Holy
it's a pun.
shit.
Yeah. It's like it's like the Beatles,
Yeah, but my favorite Simpsons joke is the Barbershop Quartet episode where they're like, yeah, we need to think of a name that's funny at first, but less creative and funny the more you think about it. That is the fucking Beatles.
I love it. I love the name of the Beatles. I was in the pub with some coworkers just before Halloween, just after Halloween, sometime around Halloween. And we were talking about the Beatles, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty funny that their name's a pun. And one of my coworkers was like, what do you mean? What do you mean and I was like, because it's Beatles, B-E-A-T, as in beat. And he went, holy shit, I did not. Like the first time he's ever figured that out.
if the Beatles were some kind of like one act wonder, like some kind of novelty artist, the joke would make more sense, because it would be like the band Living in a Box, who went famous because of her hit single Living in a Box on the album Living in a Box.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of love the fact that one of the biggest bands in the entire world to have ever exist have a shitty pun name. Like, it's excellent.
So at 4:00, Ben Cook is able to finally take a peek inside the empty recording studio. He's not even allowed to look at the cast. He's not allowed to take a picture of the cast. He's just allowed into the empty studio. The director promises that if he comes back in 2 days, he would be allowed to take pictures of the cast. So he returns to the studio 2 days later, and the director is too busy to talk to, and he's only allowed 20 seconds to take a picture of the cast in the studio 2 days later. So, on this day, he basically just walked into the studio, took a picture, and then left.
Jesus Christ.
He couldn't talk to anyone, which sounds like a fucking nightmare. So at 4:35, he spots Richard E. Grant in the car park. He wants to ask for a photo for the cover of Doctor Who magazine, but the BBC guidelines say you aren't allowed to actually approach an actor, which is really fucking bizarre. So he eventually decides to ask him, and Richard E. Grant happily agrees to be photographed. He's a very generous man with his time, apparently, Richard E. Grant. So this is maybe 5 minutes of just him contemplating, do I go up and say hello to him, or am I going to be fired for this? And he basically ends the day by watching Countdown with Richard E. Grant in the green room, which sounds like a vibe. So why this is relevant to where we are today in terms of history? Russell T Davies read this article at the time, and he quickly decided, when journalists come to my show in 2005, when we start filming this stuff, they are going to be given VIP treatment. We aren't going to have journalists from Doctor Who magazine come in and be stuck inside the green room all day just waiting. We're not going to be locked inside a stationery cupboard.
I tell you, Doctor Who magazine must have been tough going when they cancelled Doctor Who.
Yes.
that must have been real hard to keep that magazine alive, you know.
Yeah, it's incredible. There's so many magazines that have come out in the last maybe 20 years. There's been like a Stargate magazine, a Star Trek magazine, a Supernatural magazine, a Once Upon a Time magazine, Supernatural. Did I say There's been loads of like TV tie-in magazines that try to emulate Doctor Who magazine, and none of them get past like 25 issues. Even Torchwood magazine was a thing for a while.
Wow. Yeah.
But none of them got past 25 issues because none of the showrunners involved in these TV shows would give them like VIP treatment. Whereas, you know, Doctor Who magazine, I would say like people from Doctor Who magazine are allowed at any time, basically. Like every week there's production going on, they're allowed on the set, which is incredible. You know, that's what you need in a magazine.
And it is genuinely a really good magazine. Like I'm not much of a magazine reader, but like I have read multiple Doctor Who magazines like almost cover to cover because it's a really good read to sit and dig into, especially with now like, you know, like Russell T Davies and stuff being an active contributor to the magazine. It makes it even more interesting at times to read, even though he makes terrible decisions a lot of the time. But I haven't kept up. I need to re-sub my subscription to Doctor Who mag, but it's a lot of paper.
I am fucking terrible for keeping up to date with the modern magazines, but for this show, I use Doctor Who magazine every time we cover a new story, because all of them are available online on Internet Archive or Pocket Mags. So I basically have access to every issue at my fingertips, which is really
very
fucking
useful.
lovely.
Yeah,
it's
excellent
so good.
Resource. Yeah.
And they go in so much depth with the directors, actors. If you don't have Doctor Who magazine, you need to read it if you want to find out more about Doctor Who history. It's really good stuff.
Just stop by your local Tesco's and pick up a
Is it
copy.
at Tesco's? I've only seen it in W.H. Smith. I've never seen it in
I've seen it in
shop.
Tesco. It's in the magazine section, in the bigger Tesco. You won't get it in a small Tesco, but in a bigger Tesco, you'll see it there.
My local Tesco up until like 4 months ago was a big Tesco. Never saw it. We'd always have to go to W.H. Smith.
Are you ever in the book section? In the Tesco, at least in the Tesco that I've been to most recently, which interestingly enough is a Tesco about 300 miles away from me. But in that Tesco, they have like the book section and the magazine section, which used to be a very big sprawling area, and now it's like one shelf next to
same
the,
here.
the foods.
My old local has one shelf basically, but it's never got Doctor Who magazine. It's always like Take a Break or TV Choice.
Yeah, it's got all that
TV
stuff.
magazines.
But I've seen Doctor Who magazine there frequently. It's pretty good.
Right on.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Fair enough. You know, Doctor Who magazine is so much better now that they're able to have so much access to the show. And apparently, like, Russell T Davies even set up a fucking trap for the BBC. So, around 2004, he set up an interview between the editor of Doctor Who magazine and Christopher Eccleston. And this is like the first proper interview Christopher Eccleston actually ever gave. And Russell T Davies was called into the BBC's offices because the controller of the BBC or somebody higher up in charge was really fucking upset with the fact that Russell T Davies set up this interview without informing the BBC, which is bullshit. And Russell T Davies was like, no, you're in my trap, my friend. I set this up so you would have a conversation with me about Doctor Who magazine. We need to have full-on access with Doctor Who magazine. We need to give them full-on access to the show. And, you know, like, it makes perfect sense. You sell more issues of the magazine, you fucking have more viewers for the show. You have more viewers for the show, you have more subscribers to the magazine. It's just like we both help each other out. It's like a constant win-win situation. You know, like, it's a reason Doctor Who magazine is still around to this day. I would imagine sales are lower than they used to be, but because it's so in-depth and there's still a huge fan base for Doctor Who, and because Russell T Davies set this up, they're able to have material to actually publish that's related to the modern series rather than just having to focus on old episodes and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it keeps it interesting, and if you're like a hardcore dork who loves Doctor Who a lot, it's the ultimate resource, you know. If it's perfect. It's one of the things that I'm really glad exists, you know, and I wish other shows took from it as a way to even communicate ideas with fans, you know, rather than mindless speculation online, or, you know, various other, like, going to different news sources. Like, you know, like, sure, you could go to your IGNs or your like whatever other pop culture media broadcaster there is to be like, oh, rumors there's a new Star Wars about you know. But if you had, like, and I'm sure there is a dedicated Star Wars magazine of some kind, but if you had one that was as in depth as Doctor Who is, or a Star Trek magazine, or any TV show with a magazine that's dedicated just to, hey, let's go into all the behind the scenes, we have got the head writer of the show talking about it. I think not only would you have more people staying invested in the show, you would have more people wanting to get into writing and wanting to get into the production side of things, which is always needed. You want to have new voices, you want to have new people, you want to have people that are interested in that type of thing, you know. And it's lame. Nobody wants to do it because it sucks and it's bad, actually. But
it's also the good thing about Doctor Who Confidential and now Doctor Who Unleashed, which is slightly worse than Confidential, I would say. I don't think I've seen the last 3 episodes of Unleashed.
I didn't watch any. I didn't like the host. I'm not a fan of the host, so I didn't watch it.
It could be worse. When I first watched it, I thought it was going to be more cringe, but it got better.
It feels very cringe to me. I feel like I would like just like a fly on the wall documentary more than a host being like, hey, let's look around the Doctor Who set today, guys. Oh, I'm so wacky. You know, I'm not there for that.
That's what Doctor Who Confidential was. It was more fly on the wall with interviews rather than just a host walking around trying to cater to the TikTok audience. But that's the thing you have to do now. You have to keep it engaging for the TikTok audience. It's why the show itself might not be as good as it used to be.
Yeah, you know, it's like it's like 18 to 25 is the key demographic for a lot of play. You're not in that demographic. Soon I'm not going to be in that demographic.
We're getting old.
Things aren't going to be made for us. They're not made for us anymore. You know, they're made for people younger than us that we don't understand or are scared by. So
So there were plans for more episodes of this version of the show. When the reboot series was announced, the animation team asked the Cardiff team if they could still make animations, and the Cardiff team turned around and said, yeah. But then, like, in early 2004, they quickly changed their mind for no reason at all. Which, of course, like, they were trying to get production going, and then suddenly they realized, hey, we haven't really received any funds recently. What's going on with the money issue? And then they called Cardiff and they were like, yeah, you're not allowed to do this anymore. And it's like, well, okay, I guess we're not allowed to do this anymore, which is kind of sad, but understandable. You can't have 2 versions of a show going on at the same time. That's just confusing.
Yeah.
So for their second episode they were considering, they had selected 3 writers with promising episode ideas. I think they wound up wanting to use all of this as part of like a complete series. So James Swallow came in with Memoria, which had the Master in a larger role, which sounds quite interesting. I'm very interested in this version of the Master. I would love to see an explanation of what the fuck this Master's deal is.
100%.
Stephen Baxter had The Forest of Ancestors, which was about a race of people who were living trees. Kind of sounds like Avatar almost.
It's just like Ents from Lord of the Rings, you know? They're living trees. Or live in trees or living trees?
They were living trees.
As in, like Ents from Lord of the Rings. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Simon Clark had an idea called Blood of the Robots, which was set.
I mean,
in a
aren't all
garbage
trees
dump.
aren't all trees are living? Every tree.
I mean, I guess they would be more sentient trees, like Tom Baker in Star Wars. Was Tom Baker the living tree guy?
I don't remember.
Tom Baker, Star Wars. Remember, it was a giant tree, and I think Tom Baker played him in Rebels.
Oh my God! Yeah, he was. Yeah, that's a weird character in Rebels for sure.
But yes.
Yeah. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Simon Clark had an idea called Blood of the Robots, which was set in a garbage dump planet where robots worked. The first episode script had been completed, as well as the first draft for a second episode, which fucking give me that. I'm interested. It's, from these two stories alone, about a race of living trees and also a garbage dump planet where robots work. That's shit you wouldn't get on the show. Not even today. Like, I don't see robots in a living garbage planet being a thing on today's show.
I reckon you could make that work if you were to throw in like what was the episode of Jodie's one where it was
Kerblam.
where it's like, and it's Earth all along.
Oh, Orphan 55.
Yeah,
Jesus
where
Christ.
you could be like they're on a polluted planet that there's only robots left. Like it's like a Wall-E situation.
Yeah.
The robots are just left to clean up the humans' mess. You could do something with that. And the robots all start going mental.
Paul Cornell also submitted an outline for a story called The Masks of Mascar. This was later reused as a short story in the Doctor Who 2006 annual, and I'll just quickly read the synopsis to this. The Ninth Doctor is asked to represent an alien planet, but his eternal grief at the loss of the Time Lords begins clouding his judgment, and when Rose is put in danger, the Doctor discovers a trap has been set, and he has walked straight into it. This kind of reminds me of what I kind of want to happen to Ncuti Gatwa, like he's so emotional about the plan. He's so emotional, that he falls for a trap and he just gets suckered
there's
in.
some sort of conflict happens of some kind.
Yeah.
Someone makes a mistake and it goes bad for them.
nice.
That would be pretty cool, yeah. If there was like some sort of consequence to an action somebody made.
But yeah, these certainly sound like interesting stories. So I would have been very interested to see, But it is what it is. We just didn't get it. But that's all I have for this preamble. Are you ready to jump in, or?
Yeah, I don't really have much to say other than the scream of the Shalka, more like this fucking I'm gonna scream at how Shalka it is. It's fine. We're gonna look at episode 4 right now, and we'll work our way through till we get to the end of this thing, baby. Strap in, because episode 4 begins.
Tell me if I'm hurting you.
I don't care, just get it out.
What? Something's just... What is this?
Joe?
No, just wait. It's okay. I think I've nearly got it. Hold on. Oh no.
So, episode 4 of the Scream of the Shalka. This is definitely an episode. It's one of the longer episodes. The last 2 episodes we looked at were 10 minutes long. This one is 15 minutes. And I don't think it justifies its runtime. I don't think it has any reason to be 15 minutes long. It should be 10 minutes like the other ones.
Yeah, this story just does not work with these 15. Like, the pacing is just too slow.
Yeah.
Like maybe this could have been like a 3-parter, like each episode half an hour or something.
That's still too much. I'd like a 3-parter in each episode is 10 minutes. It's a 30-minute block. I don't know. Maybe a 4. See, I think that it works as like a 5-parter the way that it's paced out. It was when it was like part 6. I was like, why did we need a sixth part here at the minute? Why do we? It feels like everything's kind of wrapped up, or wrapping up neatly. And because it's following that classic Who format as well of you need to end on a weird cliffhanger that gets immediately resolved, and need to have weird pacing throughout, and it is this weird blend, because there was stuff we were talking about like last week that modern Who adopts, and that are ideas that get brought into modern Who, and this is kind of like what happened with the Doctor Who movie as well.
Yeah.
It's like this weird middle ground between what classic Who is and what new Who becomes. You have this weird like figuring it out period, where the show evolves.
Yeah, the one thing that makes this more like modern Who than classic Who is the domestic setting, the fact that like we went to his companion's house, we know where she works and shit like that. It starts off in a normal neighborhood. Which is something we're going to be talking about come December when we do Survival, because that's a very domesticated set, and it's like the first time in classic Who you actually go inside the normal house, essentially. I'm looking forward to it. It's a good episode, Survival.
Never seen it.
That's the first week of December, which is the final ever classic Doctor Who story. That's the episode they ended on, it's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and it's very.
It also has the Master in it.
Of course. Which this episode opens up with the Master as the Shalka are boarding the very nice TARDIS. We get a brief scene with the Shalka putting a bugworm into Lady's head, but it's literally like 5 seconds. And on this scene with the Master, he reawakens and reattaches his face, as of course we found out he was a robot man in the last episode, and he goes, good, the Doctor is doing what I expected him to do, which is weirdly convoluted way of explaining it, where he's like, I knew the Doctor would have to turn me off so that he could set everything in secret so that I would have to be the only one that knows where everything is, because I would have tried to stop him if I was awake, even though I know that he would have put me to sleep, so I wouldn't stop him, because I know this is a good idea, but I wouldn't be able to stop myself stopping him if I was awake to do it. I don't understand.
All you fucking need to know from this is the Master is trying to work with the bad guys, but because he's tethered to the TARDIS and the Doctor can pop in at any time, it's difficult for him to try and work with the bad guys like he usually did in the classic series. Or even, like, I think Russell T Davies is like the only showrunner who doesn't make the Master work with the bad guys ever. Like, the Master in the Russell T Davies era is just himself.
Yeah, he's kind of standalone and standoffish to everybody. He's like, I want to be the one in charge. Oh no, he worked with I guess he didn't really work with them. They were more like tools that he used. But
the rich people,
orbs.
The orb. Yeah, I guess the orb, and also the incest rich people.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember the incest rich people?
Yeah. They didn't. Yeah. But when when Moffat took over the Master, did Missy team up with it? I guess Cyberman.
Yeah, Missy worked with the Cybermen. Technically worked with it, kind of Daleks.
Yeah.
Well, not really. Well,
And again,
she was in an episode with the Daleks.
When Chibnall took over, the Master teamed up with everybody. Nazis, Cybermen again. Various people.
Daleks, in the final episode.
yeah. Everybody was in that final episode. It was a fun episode.
We should recover it someday. I like Power of the Doctor. It was quite fun. It's so bad it's good. It's not well written. It doesn't make sense, but
I don't even think it was bad. It's like the most like fan fiction come to life episode of Doctor Who I've ever seen, and I had a fucking blast watching it. It's far and away one of the best Chibnall era episodes. Like, not even close. It's just
not
fun.
Saying much.
It's just fun. It's just dumb fun.
But in Scream of the Shalka, you would have heard more screaming at this point, because in the original draft, they tried to scream in various pitches to try and wake the Master up. I'm sure you're very happy that you didn't actually see that in the final cut, because you don't like the screaming.
The screaming is one of the things I like the least about this entire story. I feel like it's overindulgent. I understand it's called The Scream of the Shalka, and there's going to be some screaming, but I don't think there needs to be quite as much for quite as long. You know, like, when they start screaming, I get it, let's cut away, let's not hold on it for 30 seconds.
It's the same fucking problem with the Sea Devils. Actually, was it the Sea Devils?
Sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of episodes where the monsters are just fucking terrible. Or even like the Web Planet. At least we're not watching the Web Planet of just them.
It's like that joke. The Web Planet's like the joke in B-movie when Barry B. Benson comes up to talk to the court and everybody's hushed in silence because they're waiting for the bee to talk, and he goes, and everyone's very confused. He's like, I'm just joking. Like, it's like that, but without the payoff, you know?
Terrible movie.
Excellent. Love B-movie. The companion lady, whose name I straight up do not remember at the minute. Allison.
We didn't. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. We didn't even fucking talk about how she's the first black companion to the Doctor. She beat Martha by like 4 years. Which is
I didn't even think about it.
Pretty cool, That's and you would probably have any people going, "Oh, that's so woke. She's just a DEI hire." Back in 2003, because nobody fucking gave a shit in 2003 if there was a black person on it. Well, I guess people did give a shit, but it's not the same as today.
I'm sure there was some for sure that really were upset by it, but honestly I didn't even register that she was the first black woman companion. I was like, fucking, whatever. But nice.
Which after like fucking 40 years, about time. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like maybe there's maybe racism used to be more accepted in the past or something.
I wonder.
Something suspicious. Something suspicious going on with the past there. But yeah, Allison emerges from the ground kind of Christ-like, with her arms like spread outwards.
Almost in a T-pose.
Yeah, as she rises out. And she's confused as to where she is or why they let her go. She has this gigantic scar on her forehead that nobody mentions. When she comes out of the ground, everyone's just like, "Oh, cool, I'm glad you're okay and are 100% fine." And she's like, "Yeah, where am I right now? What's going on?" And she says that the Doctor is dead because, of course, last we saw the Doctor, he was flung into a black hole. Alas, he is not quite dead yet as we go and visit where he's at, falling into the eternal abyss of gravity compressing in on itself.
God, I wish I was thrown into a black hole. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems like an interesting way to go. I was actually listening to a podcast. I've been really into listening to Star Talk recently with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Good podcast. Yeah. And he was talking about how he wants to die, which is to be flung into a black hole. Because when you get flung into a black hole, time for you accelerates and it slows down for everyone watching you. So you get to see like the entire life cycle of the universe unfold in front of your eyes before you die. But then you die in like the most excruciating way possible because you get, and this was the term they used, spaghettified, where all of your atoms get just stretched apart until they look like spaghetti. And
that's a fucking experience to tell the grandkids, Phil,
Yeah, I'm sure you'd be able to tell them. Yeah, I know it's a hell of a way to go out for sure, but the Doctor is falling into the black hole and he's leaving a message on the phone. It's genuinely a really fun Doctor moment, I find, here when he's falling in. It feels like the Doctor, especially when he's talking and he's like, "My last words are gonna be low battery." Oh,
that's me every fucking day. I need a new phone. My battery is just shit. I've had this phone for like 4 years now. It's fucking terrible now.
That's a long time to have a phone.
I keep buying Apple. I should stop buying Apple.
You should, because they're really it's I've never bought Apple. I don't think I ever will.
But apparently in 2003, the idea of the Doctor having a mobile phone was a big deal. Apparently, it was like a controversial thing. It was like a controversial thing when the Doctor kisses a companion at a TV movie. It was the same level of controversial. Having a phone, that's so out there. Why? Who the fuck gives a shit?
The Doctor doesn't have a phone nowadays, does he? Doesn't carry a mobile.
Does he not? He sometimes does. If it's for, I don't know.
I'm trying to think. There's times he's used a mobile phone.
Yeah.
And he's like given mobile phones to companions, specifically Rose and Ruby in the mirror scene. You know, it's like poetry.
It rhymes, but it's fucking worse.
It rhymes, but it only rhymes because you said it really fast the second time. But I can't think of the Doctor ever walking around with like a mobile phone. What about when the Master takes over the Earth? Is that because he calls the Master on the phone, but I assume he's just using like Rose's phone.
It's been a fucking while. It's been a fucking hot minute. But anyway, people were like, "Oh, fucking the Doctor would never have a mobile phone," and Paul Cornell had to be like, "The Doctor uses whatever modern technology there is to communicate with people." And in the 70s series when he was living with Unit, he was exiled on Earth for like 5 years. He used video phones all the time because that was the technology of the 1980s in the Doctor Who universe, which. It's kind of bizarre to think about it because in the Unit stories, in the John Pertwee stories, they have video phones. So in the modern series, in the modern series, does that mean the video phone was invented in the 80s or the 70s?
I guess you would. It's like military technology. It's top secret military technology that they only release to the public when it becomes outdated and they've got a new thing. They all speak with holograms now.
So when Paul Cornell was writing this, he was like, it's just a normal mobile phone. There's no gimmicks to this. There's no way I'm going to use it to get the Doctor out of any scrapes like a magic wand. And here he is, fucking using it to get out.
A magic door.
Because Paul realized he fucking wrote himself into a corner. He's just like, how the fuck does the Doctor get out of being in a black hole? He can't call anybody. He can only leave voicemails because obviously there's no reception when you're in a black hole. Right?
Yeah.
So I guess they would only get the voicemail when the Doctor lands on Earth or inside the TARDIS, right?
I guess. That's how it would work. I don't know how you're getting a voicemail at all. I don't know how you're getting a signal to leave it. Well, surely you would just get a dial tone of no signal. Like, if I don't have a phone signal, I'm not able to connect to your phone and leave a voicemail. That's not how that works. But,
but yeah, he just realized he wrote himself into a corner, and he's like, fine, then I'll just write this into the script. It is a part of the TARDIS. It actually came out of the little thing you pull out, in the TARDIS door that the Doctor answered in The Empty Child. That's where the mobile phone came from at the start of episode 1 of this story.
Yeah, it's
TARDIS technology, which is kind of cool. It's never really done again.
Yeah, the only thing that I don't really like is when he turns it into a door into the TARDIS. I don't really understand. I don't really understand what's going on. And it's the sort of thing you can only get away with in animation because they know it doesn't make sense what's happening, but because it's a cartoon and it's kind of badly animated, you can just be like, oh, okay, I guess he's in the TARDIS now.
A bunch of squares start assembling and it turns blue, and it's it's the door to the TARDIS, but it's not the actual TARDIS. It's just the door to the TARDIS. And
which allows him to access into the TARDIS. Okay. But when he goes in, obviously the Shalka are there with the Master. And the Master's like, oh yeah, welcome aboard the great Shalka vessel or whatever the fuck. And the Doctor approaches the console and he's like, oh yeah, it's cool. I noticed that the Master's not holding on to anything, to which the Master takes the cue to hold on to something and he flings the Shalka off into a black hole.
Yeah, which, because of this limited animation, I never actually noticed the Master grabbing onto anything the first time I watched this. So I was fucking confused by this scene.
Yeah, it's easy to miss, for sure. This scene in particular is... It's fine. It falls into a trap that a lot of Doctor Who writers fall into, which is having the Doctor directly kill somebody after stating that he doesn't kill. Because he was like, hey, I don't kill anybody. When I decapitated the Shalka, they're actually just made of goop, so they can rebuild themselves and they're not dead. What about when you fling them into a black hole, Doctor? What happens then? Are they able to rebuild themselves?
No, like the Doctor kills people every fucking week. You know, he does self-defense, but when the only option is to fucking murder somebody, he will fucking take that option, no doubt. You know, it's like Captain Jack at the end of Children of Earth, which we won't spoil here, but we just went through it. And, good story.
Yeah,
it's like Captain Jack.
It's the sort of thing where it's like, is he trying to convince us or himself that he doesn't kill anybody? You know, because he definitely kills people all the time, especially in this newer area. The 13th Doctor was a genocidal maniac for sure, and Shooty's Doctor I feel like has killed people as well.
I'll fucking never get over that episode where Jodie Whittaker opens up a second TARDIS and sucks all the fucking and the TARDIS, a sentient creature, the TARDIS. She kills a TARDIS.
It's the same with Flux. Half the universe is dead, and she's like, okay, but I'm also going to kill the remaining Cybermen and Daleks and Sontarans, and I'm going to make them all fall into this giant void and be destroyed. That's really cool. But you know,
it's the same thing with Flux forgot that half the universe just got destroyed in the same way that after like series 1 we kind of forgot that the Time War impacted more planets than just Gallifrey and Skaro. Like people were displaced all over the universe, and we just we mostly just forgot about that.
Yeah, it's like a running theme in series 1 is these other alien races being like, it's the whole thing with is it the Weeping Angels in series 2 at least, where they're like, oh god, we were displaced because of the Time War? But there's a creature I think in series 1 that says like, you know, we're here because of the Time War or something. Is it the ghosts? The ghosts in Victorian England.
It was also the Nestine consciousness, because we have a conversation about the Time War as well. So it was definitely a running theme in series 1. Yeah. Which, you know, that could have just been an interesting idea. You know, aliens come into the planet Earth because they have no other home. They're not trying to take over the Earth. Just the idea of aliens. I guess we did that with a Zygon inversion, but it's not specifically about the Time War. So
I never really thought about that before. The Time War does kind of start off as like it was this giant war to end all wars, and it spilled into 1 billion planets. And then by the time you get to the 50th, it was like it was Daleks and the Time Lords, and it was on Gallifrey.
They've definitely flanderized the Time War.
Yeah, but that's Doctor Who for you, isn't it? The Doctor is now on the TARDIS with just the Master, and they have a little bit of a back and forth here, which goes into some of the morality of this Doctor and how he's starting to change a bit, because, you know, the Master has it programmed in him that, hey, in a scenario that we're in like right now, where, you know, there's an alien invasion and there's people to save, but we're in the TARDIS, my programming is to just like, let's get the fuck out of here, let's just leave, you know. And the Doctor's like, no, we need to go back to save Allison and stuff like that. We can't leave her because, you know, that the old version of himself is starting to come back out, that less jaded version, that less you know, aggressive, the hero version of the Doctor is reappearing here, which is not extremely well communicated in this series.
No.
It's really something I'm only noticing because you've told us about the backstory that this Doctor has, you know.
Yeah, they really wanted the Doctor to go through a story arc, but because they were so uncertain that they would get picked up for more episodes, they just kind of rush it all in this. So, like, there's nowhere else the Doctor could go in terms of his personal growth if there ever was future episodes.
That's
like,
never
you could explore
Doctor
the Master a bit more, but true. That's never stopped Doctor Who for sure.
Yeah.
This is also the part where, you know, the Master is like, "Oh, you're half human." Is essentially the point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do make reference to that, that the other half of you is so emotional, that human half of you, Doctor, which is, of course, a revelation that gets made in the Doctor Who movie, that the Doctor has got human eyes because his mother was a human, which has, of course, since, I guess, been retconned entirely by the Timeless Child, and we've met the Doctor's adoptive mother, we've not met their genetic mother. So I guess there's every case that maybe the genetic mother is still human in some sort of timey-wimey weird bullshit that they could come up with.
Or maybe it wasn't her mom at all. Maybe it was just another random stranger who picked up the Doctor and was like, "You're fucking annoying. I'm just going to dump you onto this planet."
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? You could just retcon. There's been a billion Doctors before the Doctor got here. But what if it's a flat circle, and at one point the Doctor regenerates into a child that loses their memory,
oh my God.
and then that child gets thrown into a wormhole, and the wormhole takes them out into the start of Gallifrey, where they get picked up by Tech-Day-Hoon and experimented on, and it's just a flat time loop.
I thought you were going to say, what if in the future the Doctor regenerates into her mum? And
oh wow, the Doctor's Tech-Day-Hoon.
And then she has to leave herself on the planet, not because she doesn't care about herself, but because she has to keep the timeline intact.
Yeah,
and that's the final episode. That would be really something that would go well with people online.
Yeah, no, I think if you were to end Doctor Who, they kind of figured it out in the first run. Just have the Doctor walk off into the sunset to go on more adventures. That's how you end it. It's so simple.
And we'll talk about that more in 2 weeks.
Yes. But, yeah, so the Doctor's half human, canonically still in Scream of Shalka, no longer canon since the reboot in 2005. It's like the Doctor Who movie's so confusing because parts of it are canon and parts of it are not. It's like Peacemaker season 2. Like I'm going into Peacemaker season 2 not confused because I've already been through this with Doctor Who. Like Doctor Who rewrites his canon all the fucking time. Who the fuck cares? Yeah. That is the ultimate answer for sure. The Doctor approaches a soldier unit man and he apologizes for being an asshole. Which I guess, shows growth of some kind. It's a really long scene. I don't remember the scene being that long. What else do they talk about?
Yeah,
it's like a 3-minute scene.
There's a really poorly written line where the general guy is like, "Oh, and that's the TARDIS. I've not seen one of those since I was a wee boy." And the line is so confusing because when I first heard it, I thought he was specifically talking about seeing a TARDIS as a wee boy, but he's actually talking about a police box. But the line is so poorly written. It reminds me of
calls it a TARDIS. Yeah,
it reminds me of a Chibnall line at the end of series 12 where the Doctor is like, "Oh, you hate humanity," which is ironic considering you used to be one. Just rewrite the line.
You used to be
it's poorly written.
You used to be humanity. Yeah. But sometimes you just don't have time for a second draft, I guess.
But also, as he's talking about the TARDIS, you hear a knocking noise, and that was recorded as something that was meant. He was supposed to walk to the TARDIS and begin knocking on it, but the animators just wanted him sitting on his chair because cheaper. Too much effort to have him walk around.
It is a lot of effort to make someone walk. You ever tried doing that in animation? Oh my god, it takes forever.
I'm joking.
We get a scene with Alison and her boyfriend where her boyfriend randomly knocks out a soldier suddenly.
Yeah,
and then
so
they run off into a car.
Again, he does say the words, "Oh, I can't control myself," because he's been mind controlled. But it's so poorly conveyed through the animation. It's just really clunky. And also at the start of a shot, if you rewind to the very start of a shot and look as she's holding her phone, it's the Doctor's phone from the TARDIS. They just animated the wrong phone.
That's interesting because I currently have it on a frozen frame where she's
she has a
dropped-
different phone at the end.
She has a different phone, a black phone at the end, but it's where she's dropped it, but it's like a frame before the phone has dropped, and it's clearly the asset that needs to be animated to move, and it's on the layer on top of her hand. So she's holding the phone over all of her fingers and
Nice.
and holding it like that. It's very good. It's very good.
But yeah, we are apparently supposed to be in Sheffield around this scene. Speaking of
Oh my
Chibnall,
God, where's Jodie?
I think
Yeah.
we're in Sheffield. And also, we're walking around an old neighborhood, and Alison is like, "Oh, I used to play Knockdown Ginger over that house," which is apparently the same thing as Ding Dong Ditch. I've never heard the name Knockdown Ginger.
Yeah.
Which I need to look it up, I guess. What does it mean?
I'm actually going to
Where
look
does
it up
that-
right now.
Which, there's only one ginger on this podcast, and I'd happily knock him down.
Wow, rude.
Which I guess is abuse because you're kind of disabled.
Not because I'm ginger.
Why is it
Okay.
called?
Oh wow. Okay, so this is from ChatGPT. The phrase "knockdown ginger" or sometimes "knocky door ginger" refers to a traditional children's game in the UK where kids knock on someone's door and then run away before the occupant answers. The original terms aren't entirely clear, but there are a few theories. One suggestion that knockdown ginger might stem from the old term ginger, which was used to mean something that provoked or annoyed. Another theory is that it could derive from an old rhyme: ginger, ginger, broke a window, hit the window, ding-a-ling-a-ling. In some regional dialects, ginger could refer to someone who acts in a mischievous, cheeky manner, which aligns with the prankish nature of the game. It's mainly a British term, with similar pranks known in other different countries, like Ding Dong Ditch in the United States, or, where we called it, where I'm from in Scotland, chappy.
Oh, yeah.
Chap on the door and you run away.
I've only done that once in my life.
I've never.
Have you ever done it?
I had friends
Wow,
that
you're
did
a
it.
good
I had
boy.
friends that knocked on the door. I would never knocked. I ran. I never knocked.
Yeah, because you're a coward.
Yeah. Mostly. It seemed like a waste of time. I didn't quite see the appeal in.
I mean,
knocking
I
on a
only
door and
did.
running away. Oh, we wasted their time. We got them.
It was like lunchtime at secondary school. We were bored, so somebody decided to do it, and we did it.
Yeah, it's definitely the time. When you're a dumb teenager, it makes you laugh. It's the sort of dumb, sort of nonsense stuff that makes you laugh.
I don't think anybody was even home, to be honest.
Oh yeah, but who knows?
Iconic.
Yeah. So the next scene we get is the Doctor standing in a misty field, and I don't remember this at all. So walk us through what's next here.
What did you say? Sorry.
The Doctor stands in the woods with some soldiers.
No, yeah, he's talking to the soldiers for a bit.
Yeah, he is, and then we cut to Alice. See, this last chunk of the episode, this last 5 minutes, dull.
It's just people sitting around. Like, Alison is trying to phone the Doctor, but her finger cannot touch the phone because she's still being mind controlled with it. What we find out is a big poop in her head.
Yes, yeah, there is that big twist at the end of this episode, which, I don't know. Can we just jump to that? Nothing else happens. So her boyfriend is like, "Oh, you have a big spot on your head. Let me pop the big spot on your head." And she's like, "Yeah, do it. Pop the big spot on my head. It really hurts. Just get whatever's in that to come out." And so he goes to pop it, and out comes this fucking little turd. It looks like Mr. Poopy from South Park, coming out of her forehead.
Mr. Hanky, the Christmas
Mr.
poo,
Hanky, yeah, the Christmas poo. That's what I meant. Coming out. It's like a little worm guy, I guess, is what they're. It's like a mini Shalka or something.
Oh my god, it fucking reminds me of John Hurt in Alien, or even more specifically, Spaceballs.
Yeah. It reminds me of the Daleks in Asylum of the Daleks. We were just talking about that. The human guys that get the Dalek eyeball coming out of their forehead. It is. I guess it's fine. I guess it would be one of the things that work surprisingly better in live action than in animation. Because in live action, you can kind of go into a bit more body horror grotesqueness with it. And when you've got this low budget of animation, it just looks like a pooping out your face, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure this could be quite scary if it was actually like CGI or a puppet or something like that.
Oh, yeah, sure.
To rewind the scene where the Doctor's talking in the woods is because they used gas. Him and the military used gas to knock out one of the Shalka, and then they bring it to a lab, and the Doctor's like, "Hey, I'm just gonna leave for a minute," and then he uses the other guy in the room as bait, which is
yeah,
which is fun.
It is a scene that happens. It's definitely a scene that happens in the show Scream of the Shalka. I'm not a fan of episode 4. I find it really boring. I think it's a really boring episode where nothing happens. You know, there's very little action, and so because the episodes are so short and because of how the pacing is, you have the first 5 minutes of resolving the cliffhanger from the last episode. The next 5 minutes trying to introduce some sort of plot. And the 5 minutes after that are the cliffhanger again for the next episode. Yeah. You know, so that's 15 minutes where you have got 2 chunks of it are not related to the plot, they're related to the fucking cliffhanger. The 5 minutes, you have 5 minutes of plot. Like, you know?
Yeah, it feels like we're trying to establish a 3-act structure here, but it just does not work in a 15-minute cartoon. You need to just have 1 act. You know? Have maybe. 1 act and leave a cliffhanger,
Yeah. But that's where they're at. That's what they did it. It's too late to go back. We'll tell them to do it again.
Anyway, are you ready for episode 5?
That is episode 4 done. Let us dive into episode 5.
Is it one of those rave things? What do they want to get in here for?
We're locked up for the weekend! Go away! There's nothing here!
Please just run! Mitch, they're making us do this! Mitch, get back! Get back! Call the police!
Get off the fence! Get off the fence! Get away!
Stop me!
Get off the fence!
Stop me!
Episode 5 of the Scream of the Shalka, and boy does it earn the title this time, as we get into the episode with the hordes of people. There's a bunch of people all mind controlled by the little worm coming out of Allison's head, and this is happening all around the globe. There's a bunch of people all mind controlled. They're going crazy, and they go so crazy they attack David Tennant before he's famous with another guy as well.
But so before we get into the David Tennant of it all, we forgot to mention, like Allison's boss, the barfly from episode 1, are all mind controlled and trying to get to this one place to do something, I guess.
What are they trying to do? I don't know. They're just trying to scream. I don't know why they need to do it at this particular place, because they go on to explain in this episode that they're screaming to change the atmosphere or whatever the fuck. So I don't know why it has to be done behind this fence, but yeah.
Yeah, there is so much exposition here. It's hard to pay attention, and I just tune out. Every time there's exposition in Doctor Who, I just mostly tune out.
Interesting, because
Gibbledygook.
It's a lot of gibbledygook. It's a lot of what like fake science talk. There was a term, I don't remember, the technobabble, which in Star Trek scripts, whenever there was a rule when you were writing dialogue and stuff like that, if you needed somebody to say something about the ship, you would just write technobabble here, and there was someone dedicated who knew all the ins and outs of the ship that could come up with something. that sounded, but so the writers didn't have to worry about any of the nonsense. They could just be like, Data says some technobabble and then goes on to say blah 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 blah. You know,
which I guess is a good technique because Star Trek nerds love shit like that.
Yep, and so you just hire one of them to do all the technobabble, and then you're sorted.
Perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, David Tennant's in this episode.
David Tennant is here. I wonder what he's up to these days. You hardly ever hear of him. He's like one of those actors who just like went. Pops just up. He's in this Harry Potter, and then he just kind of disappeared. You don't really hear him much. He's not in every TV show.
He was in that hit movie Nativity.
Which I guess we should cover someday if we ever run out of Doctor Who episodes to cover.
I think
he's got an evil clone in that one, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. I have seen that one. It's his twin brother, evil twin brother, I think.
Oh yeah.
Those movies suck so much, and also the co-star that is like the
Mr.
guy
Poppy?
that. Yeah, I think so.
Is that his name, Mr. Poppy? He needs help.
Like,
he should not be near children. That guy.
His character feels kind of offensive. It feels kind of like
he's a very special man.
Yeah, those are terrible movies. Those are so bad. Yeah.
But yeah, David Tennant was just next door filming. He was actually recording some Terry Pratchett novel. And he just heard Doctor Who was filming next door, so he just sweet talked the director, asked for any role, and this is the role: warehouse worker number 2, caretaker number 2, something like that. He gets murdered immediately.
He does.
Which is
he does, but hearing and he's doing it. This is Scottish David Tennant. This is authentic David Tennant, not the fake English accent that he does for Doctor Who. And it made me sit up when I heard his voice. I was like, oh shit, that's David Tennant. Nice. Suddenly it's energizing to be like, oh my god, there's a voice I recognize suddenly here. It's a nice little bit.
It is, and it is kind of having it's kind of fun having Derek Jacobi and David Tennant in the same production as the Master and not the Doctor.
Yeah, it's kind of that's kind of wild, yeah. But yeah, it's a fun little cameo. There's not much really about it. It's honestly it's like a 5-second scene, but it's cool that it's there. Then the Doctor appears out to the crowd of the Chaos with a bunch of unit soldiers who come out the TARDIS. We get oh my god, it's bigger on the inside, Jim. Line, which I thought was kind of funny.
Oh, there's something. Yeah, the animation is like really poor here because the boyfriend tries to attack the Doctor, but the animation is so sluggish and stiff. But it's so impossible to tell he's actually trying to attack the Doctor. His arm is moving like this.
You only kind of get it because the character's like, I'm sorry, Doctor, I can't stop. And the Doctor's like, yeah, don't worry, I understand. Then the Doctor punches him in the face, which you get a lot in this episode in particular, where it turns into an audio drama, where the characters are like, oh my god, this is happening right now. Rather than showing us it happening, they just say it's happening because it's way easier to communicate because the animation budget is that low, you know.
Yes. They tried to give us new locations here. There's Russia, USA, some Indian village. It's to imply that this is happening throughout the entire world, but obviously that's like 20 to 30 different character designs you have to come up with now. That's a lot of ask, you know.
It is.
Actually, I guess it's less than that because a lot of them are just shadowy, you know. It's just a lot of silhouettes, which is it kind of works for the art style. It kind of feels stylized in a way, which it's really clever use of budget here.
Yeah, there's one shot in particular that happens a little bit later in the episode, which is I think it's like in the Russian one or whatever, where it's like an old church or something. There's this guy with a beard and his eyes kind of glow. But it's like a still frame, and I don't know if you've ever heard or played the game. Oh my god, what the fuck is it called? Hang on, give me 2 seconds to find it on my Steam. Darkest Dungeon. But the art style is almost exactly the same, where it's this really thick, dark ink outlining everything, And like that singular frame looks like it's taken straight from the game. It's a stunning piece of art. There's some really nice singular frames in this show.
Yes.
You know, it's when it starts moving that it kind of falls apart a bit. But Darkest Dungeon, great game. Not a fan of Darkest Dungeon 2, but the first one was excellent.
Never heard of it.
It's a PC game, but it's like it's like dark gothic Victorian era sort of stuff, and you're going into this big old village that's been just corroded with death and despair, and trying to clear out all the demons from it. And you run a caravan of people, and each person has their own name and personality traits and things like that, and if they die, they're just dead forever, and you have to try and recruit and build up and defeat. It's very difficult, difficult game, but it's very good, very good game. Spent many an hour on it. But the episode moves on with the Doctor rips out the little worm from Allison's head, which stops all the screaming briefly, and then we go into the longest exposition scene in the world.
Yeah. The scene before this is confusing, because I guess the Doctor gets knocked out. It's you know, it's
I don't know.
It's really confusing.
It just
at one
fades to
point,
black. It just goes away. It's just
yeah,
done.
he falls to the ground. It fades to black, and then
And
suddenly
then he's just
back
delivering
up.
exposition. No, because he falls to the ground and they put it in a jar. Because it's like they've almost got... It's like the Shalka's like the scream's about to knock him out, but it doesn't do it quite enough because he manages to stick it in a jar, and Allison checks his pulse and stuff. You know.
It's confusing, but yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. But we get a really, really long exposition scene after that, which I don't think is terrible. I think it delivers some interesting enough exposition, but it is the bulk of the episode, which is the Doctor explaining what the Shalka are actually trying to do, which is they can't breathe the Earth's atmosphere very well because of, you know, just the way it's built up. And they're used to a thicker, more toxic atmosphere to humans. So the screaming from all the humans and the Shalka apparently produces a gas or changes the Earth's atmosphere of some kind. Breaks apart the ozone.
It breaks down. Breaks down the ozone layer, which can make them breathe more and the humans breathe less. It's essentially what's going on here. Which, sure,
it's a Doctor. It's definitely like a classic Who plot for sure. You know, it's 100% a classic Who plot, and it's you remember when the ozone had giant holes in it? That was mental, wasn't it? It's crazy.
Yeah, but also in this, you know, the very start of the story just kind of implies it's a small town kind of issue. It's only happening in this small town. There's no deliveries being made, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, now all of a sudden it's just worldwide. You know, we're in India, we're in Russia, we're in USA. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess there's more Shalka in the on the planet Earth, and they realize what's going on here.
Just more little villages that nobody cared about all across the world, you know.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, no, it is. That's true. That is communicated pretty badly as to why it's suddenly worldwide now. Feels like they forgot the setup when they got to this chunk. Because yeah, I don't think that makes any sense at all. But after all that exposition, we get a very fun little scene with Allison and the Master inside the TARDIS, where the Master is like very sinister towards her when he's like, "Oh, I'm the Master, and you're gonna learn really soon." And the Doctor comes in, he's like, "That I'm a great host, and the TARDIS is a wonderful place." Which is it's a fun. Yeah. Again, it's sad we didn't get to see more of this Master. I like him.
Yeah, he's trying to hypnotize Allison by going, "I am the Master, you will obey." But before he can get to the obey part, the Doctor walks in and he's like, "Oh, you will have a wonderful time here. Welcome." which is a really fun dynamic. You know, you have to mix things up. And it's a really interesting dynamic for the Master to have. He can't just be the same guy all the time. But even though here he's just designed like Roger Delgado with a goatee and the hair. It's just the Roger Delgado design, which was also the fucking Anthony Ainsley design. We'll get to him next week, but the Master in the 80s was just designed like Roger Delgado. It makes no sense for this guy. He's a shapeshifter, and he just chooses the same design over and over again.
It's a master of disguise.
True, I guess.
But yeah, then the Doctor comes in and he does a little song where he does like an operatic sort of long note, which it's moments like this, and it comes again at the next episode in particular as well, where the characterization of the Doctor doesn't match the design. We talked about this last week, where he's like this like stoic looking sinister Victorian man, but then suddenly he's singing and going woohoo and being funny and jokey and stuff. Like there's this weird juxtaposition between the two of them that doesn't. Maybe it would translate better in live action than it does in animation.
Yeah. But yeah, the design was essentially just made based off of episode 1, where he's much more grumpy, and then obviously Richard E. Grant walks into the studio and has more. I think Richard E. Grant has more fun with this role as he's getting along with each episode. So he is so fun in these next 2 episodes here. He is just entertaining as hell. He feels more comfortable in the role. And maybe that's why he's considered to be a bad Doctor, because he is kind of stiff in the first 2 episodes, but when he just kind of, I feel like he found his footing towards the end here. He's really solid.
I don't know, like, if it's, sometimes it takes a Doctor a minute to click, than it does with other Doctors. But I never had a problem with his performance watching it. Even in the first episodes, I thought he was fine as the Doctor. I definitely liked him more as I went on, but I feel like that with every Doctor. I always like the Doctor more as I go on because I'm spending more time with them, so you end up liking them more. But I think he's good, and I would like to see him back in the role. I think it would be interesting. Why not? Big Finish, get him on.
Yeah, I really do wonder if Big Finish have ever tried to get Richard E. Grant back. That would be fun.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure he's probably too busy. He seems like a pretty big actor these days.
And also, he probably just doesn't want to do it, which I don't blame him.
Yeah, I don't know. He does weird stuff. He showed up in Loki and things like that. He does weird stuff every now and then,
Yeah, but it's always nice to see Richard E. Grant, though. He seems like a lovely man. Have you seen that one interview going around with him recently where he's asked what is the most underrated role on the movie set, and he's like, definitely the runners. They start at 5 a.m. and they're the last person to leave, and if anything goes wrong, they're the person who gets yelled at. Yes. Apparently his kid was a runner on some by a big household name, which doesn't surprise me because runners are like the most abused people on the film set. Doesn't sound like a fun job, which
it's insane. Yeah, the whole industry is backwards. And it's cool. But yeah, I did actually see that clip that made it into my YouTube Shorts feed.
Instead of like spending, how much does Robert Downey Jr. get to do his Doctor Doom role?
A lot. A lot of money.
Like probably like 100 million, which is so fucking much money.
Yeah.
Like maybe he could have 70 million, and some of us money could trickle down to the lower downs. You know what I mean?
Money trickles down eventually. You just gotta be patient. It's basic Reaganomics. The money will trickle. It'll come to you. You just gotta have they'll deal with it at the top, and you'll get the scraps.
But this is one of the reasons why I never really followed up on where I studied from. Like I studied film, and I have zero interest in actually entering the industry now. Yeah.
Like my issue with it comes to, we went to college together, but my issue with the industry in general is I just wasn't really interested in the production side. Like doing the runner jobs or being a gaffer. Like if as a way into the industry, I'd be like, sure, I'll do it for like a year or something to get my foot in the door. But a lot of it, they're wanting people that just want to be gaffers, just want to be runners, just want to be, whatever, the like line producers or whatever. And I'm like, I want to write. I want to writing, like
Yeah, I went into it wanting to write as well, but at the same time, I haven't written anything in years. So I also don't have the time or the motivation. You certainly have the time and the motivation. You write all the fucking time.
Well, I don't really have the time, but I make the time because I want to do it. And I have the motivation, but that's mostly just it's like a worm in my brain. I'm like Robert F. Kennedy. You know, there's there are worms in my brain controlling me, and they make me. If I get like an idea in my head, it doesn't go away until I write it down. I have to write it down, and so I write it down, and then it's done. And then I hate it, and that's the process. Being a writer, you write something down, you think it's good for about a day, then you hate it.
I mean, I have one idea that I'm constantly going back to in my head. You know, it was my short film for college.
Yeah.
And I think about how it could be expanded into a book, but I just never... I keep on thinking about, like, every 9 months, I'm like, I'm going to write that book someday, but I never fucking start, because I just have zero motivation.
It's hard. Writing a book sucks. It's a really long process. It takes forever and is.
But hey, you fucking wrote a good one. I would bring it out here if it was on the desk.
I don't have a copy nearby either. I did write a book. Can you taste the color orange?
I'm sure there's a link down below.
I'm sure just type it into your search bar. There's not many things called "Can you taste the color orange?" It's pretty searchable. But yeah, I'm working on a very. Oh, before you turn off your camera, working on a very different book at the minute. And I haven't started writing it. I have a bunch of notes for it. I'm waiting on a new keyboard because I hate my keyboard. And so then I'll start writing, and we'll see how that goes, if anything happens from it. You heard it here first, like an hour and 20 minutes into Scream of Shalka Part 2.
There's free links that directly to your book.
Directly to my book. Yeah. You should write a book. You're really good with words.
And then the fourth link is like, orange is the only color you can smell or taste. That's from Reddit. You can't smell or taste the color orange. The food orange and the color orange aren't the same thing. Eating an orange isn't tasting a color.
I don't believe you. But the next scene we get is basically the final scene of this episode. Oh, well, it ends on a bit of a crappy cliffhanger, but the Doctor comes out to confront the Shalka Queen again with Allison, and I don't know what they deliver here that we don't already know. Because the Shalka Queen is like, oh yeah, we're here to change the atmosphere and take over the planet, and we live on a bunch of different planets, and that's what we do. And that's already information we found out this episode. So why are we hearing it again? What is the purpose of that? You know,
I think it's to pad time. It feels like it's padding time.
It does, and then the
I really like the set though. I really like the design of like the Queen. It's really big, and it kind of almost looks like it's a 3D texture. The way it's shaded, it looks decent enough. You know, it's solid.
Every now and then the art Every now and then the art is good. Like the art style for the humans, it's give or take. Sometimes it's all right, sometimes it's a bit iffy. But the bigger, more sci-fi drawings, when they can have a bit more freedom with the shapes and the designs and the colors of things, that's when I think the art style really stands out as bold and interesting. You know, it's just the lack of animation that kind of lets it down.
Yeah, but yeah, we're on to episode 6.
Well, before we get on to episode 6, this episode ends with literally the world ending, and there's a big old hole in the atmosphere, and all the screaming Shalka come, and it's like, oh my god, the world's end. That's the end of that's the cliffhanger. How's it going to be solved? And we'll have to find out in episode 6. It's a really bad cliffhanger, like classic. Yeah, the cliffhangers always suck. You know.
Yeah, it is what it is.
What good is sitting alone in your room? Come hear the music play. I must say, I'm getting tired of all your ooh. Nul point, says the damn Lord Jerry. Tell me honestly, Am I irritating you yet? You have to do better than that. Look how strong the Time Lord is. Look how he stands up to you. 1 billion worlds, top predator of the cosmos. You're just a bunch of one-penny jelly snakes. No. Hit me again, George. Perfect pitch. Finally.
Part 6 of The Scream of the Shalka. The conclusion. Sweet merciful Christ, the conclusion. It is fine as far as episodes go. We'll get into it. I'm just glad it's over. Honestly, I am. 6 is a lot. 6 is a lot for this.
Yeah, the thing is, I enjoyed this more when we didn't have to sit around and criticize it, nitpick each detail.
It's really hard to talk about it the way that we normally dissect, because there's just not a lot going on. And so, we like to go in and we talk about like the structure and the scripting and the format and everything, and there's it's like every episode's the exact fucking same. So,
yeah, but the fact that we have 2 episodes on this that are both nearly 2 hours long each is kind of impressive. This episode might be like 1:45, something like that, I imagine.
I
Quote me on it. Give me money if this episode winds up being 1:45.
It's like what, 40 minutes? 47 minutes.
So it'd be like an hour and this is the an hour and a half point. 1:25 maybe. Never 20 minutes.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see.
But this episode opens up with the Doctor eating a worm. Because he decides that that's his best course of action, is to just gobble up the worm. It's really badly animated. I thought he was drinking a weird juice until it went to the inside shot. Is this the first time we see inside the Doctor actually the camera's in his throat? Because we follow the worm all the way down into, I guess, his stomach or something. Which is not, I don't think, a shot we've ever really explored in live-action Doctor Who before.
Oh, it fucking reminds me of Rugrats. You know what I'm talking about? Every single episode opened up on, like, something bouncing. I mean, the camera zooms out to reveal it's like somebody's tonsils or something like that. Like, we got really creative in terms of our close-ups. Like, Rugrats was great for that.
It's animation. You can do what you like. So the Doctor eats the worm and starts like being like, oh my god, I get it, they're so good to their planet, they're so nice, the worms are so cool. It freaks out Alison a little bit, and she's like, no, it's taking control of you. And he's like, no, I'm just communicating with it, and now I'm able to communicate with the Shalka and understand all of their screaming and what they're all about and stuff like that, and it's going to be the excellent tool to allow me to murder them all, which he does. He goes to confront the Shalka, and you made the note when we were watching it of it. This is a different Doctor now.
He's a bit too farcical, kind of. He's a bit too much playing a character, he's just having too much fun, which is a huge contrast from like an hour and a half ago where he's like, oh, I'm grumpy, I don't want to help anyone, I just want to get to the TARDIS. And now all of a sudden he's like, I'm in love with the world again. Like, what's going on?
He does have like a few lines he says in this episode and the previous episode where he's like, you're going to have to excuse how flamboyant I become at times. It's just part of who I am.
Seriously, the Doctor begins singing lines from the musical Cabaret, and I fucking love this version of the Doctor. It's so much fun. It just feels like a wildly different interpretation than he was an hour and a half ago. Maybe if he had extra time on this production, they could have fine-tuned it a bit more, so it's not a major dramatic turn like this, because there's nothing in the plot that makes him change, really. Like, There's really no big.
I guess
moment.
it's just his care for Allison that feels also unearned because they've had very little time together.
But
you know.
I guess he's in love with her. Is that the interpretation here? Is he madly in love with her here? Because he gives her a kiss at the end.
It's the Doctor with companion. There's always this muddly grey ground with the Doctor and his companions that he takes on. You know, where it's like, are you?
Yeah,
I mean, there's something else.
It was never. It was never a thing in the classic series, of course. It first started with the kiss in the TV movie, which also came out of nowhere.
Okay, we've seen Jamie and the Doctor, Patrick Troughton. Okay, so I don't know what you're talking about, because it's been there from the start, you know. But yeah, it's whatever. He then takes the worm he vomits up the worm after a confrontation with the Shalka, which I don't really remember what is established or done. It like he confronts them as flamboyant, and he's like, I'm gonna beat you guys all now, by the way.
Yeah, he does a big sing, and then he blows their heads off, like Fiona singing that note that blows up the bird in Shrek 2. Was it Shrek 2 or Shrek 1? It's been a while.
Shrek 1 has more references than Shrek 2.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was right before the Robin Hood comes out, and they do big Matrix parody.
Yeah, they do the Matrix, yeah. Which, interestingly, I saw that before I saw the Matrix, because obviously I saw Shrek as a kid, and I had never seen the Matrix, because, you know.
Oh, I saw Shrek, I saw The Simpsons, I saw Very Odd Parents, all do the Matrix before I actually saw the Matrix. Like, just
then you watch the Matrix, you're like, God, it's crazy. These guys ripped off Shrek.
The wild thing is, Matrix references lingered on until like 2010. The last time I've seen a Matrix reference was in like Fairly Odd Parents in 2010, which is way too late to be doing a reference to the Matrix.
Yeah.
And of course I see the Matrix referenced on Twitter all the fucking time nowadays, which is a great thing. It's
but
boy, I wonder. I just want all those people to fucking look up who the fuck made the Matrix.
I don't care. They don't care. It's part of the game. It's part of the game. But the
internet is fun.
The Doctor vomits up a worm and shoves it into Allison's head. Seems extremely unhygienic. And interestingly, the only thing I was thinking about watching this scene is at work today, we ran out of hand soap. And so I was looking under the sink for various, that's where we keep our soaps and stuff like that, for like, okay, let's see if we've got any hand soap under the sink. I found some hand sanitizer, and it's like, oh, this isn't hand soap, whatever, but maybe, you know, if you just need to clean your hands right now, it'll be fine. I was going to check it's in date and stuff like that, because hand sanitizer can go out of date. And I was reading the back of it, and it was like, okay, precautions, do not get on brain. What the fuck? Why does this say don't get it on brain? Why am I exposed to brain right now with this?
I mean, yeah, there's plenty of people walking around with exposed brains, so I understand the warning here, you know. Every day or somebody with an exposed brain. It's just human nature.
It's the most, and then it was like, don't get into cuts and stuff. I was like, what the fuck? What, like, brain? What happened that they had to put this on the bottle? You know?
Maybe if it's like in a doctor's office, you know, or like an operation room or something like that.
I guess maybe.
Do not touch.
Yeah, don't put it on brain. If you're doing neurosurgery right now, please don't pour this on the brain.
Now I fucking want to put it on my brain.
Like, well, what's gonna happen? Yeah. But anyway, the Allison gets the worm brain, and that makes her scream and breaks the spell, I guess, is what it does on everybody. Everybody suddenly stops screaming now, because the worm's a good guy. And the Doctor blows up all the Shalka heads. He kicks the the Queen Shalka into a black hole, and Allison manages to save him from falling into the black hole, and that defeats. I find it so lackluster when. Yeah. And it's a thing Doctor Who does all the goddamn time. The way to beat the enemy is kill them. You know, it's so unsatisfying.
The way to beat an enemy is play their own game. It's the same thing as defeating Maestro. Oh, to defeat Maestro, you just play music. It's the same thing. You know, it's such lackluster. Also, it's like. The big Queen Shalka is like, oh, Doctor, we're doing sonic warfare. I can do better than you. And it's like, wait a minute, Sonic? Why not just use your sonic screwdriver here to amplify her voice so it goes back to her, and you know it's like an octave higher than her, you know, something like that. It feels like the sonic screwdriver should have been used, which is, if you've watched the show before, I'm always saying the sonic screwdriver is used so much, but here it feels like the sonic screwdriver should have been used.
It's used one time in all these episodes.
Yeah, and
to fix the phone. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think we glossed over it last week, but to break into like a warehouse or a store, he just used a hair clip. Sonic screwdriver? Hello? Like, what's going on? In the original script, by the way, I forgot to mention this. When he was trying to use the sonic screwdriver to build the TARDIS in the black hole, the original script just says he uses a regular screwdriver, which fucking doesn't make any sense.
Maybe it's just a typo. Maybe just they forgot to type Sonic. Yeah.
A very lackluster ending again. It's just like how they defeated Neil Patrick Harris or Maestro or fucking Sutek. It's how they defeated Sutek. Just send them into a black hole.
Just pull a name from a hat. It's probably how they defeated them. You know.
And I guess this is the issue when the Doctor cannot use direct violence. You know, he's technically killing these people, but he's like not touching them, he's not fighting them, he's not shooting at them. He's just using his voice here.
Yeah, it's kind of the hardship, I guess, of the show when you have a outwardly a pacifist protagonist, because you introduce like, okay, I'm the ultimate villain. I'm going to murder everybody, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. So there we go. Yeah. I win. And you have to find a way of stopping that. And Doctor Who does all these clever like jumps and hoops and sparkly lights that make you be like, oh wow, this is such a cool show. Look at all these things the Doctor's doing to not kill this guy. And then it ends with the Doctor being like, and you'll shoot yourself in the head. Another victory for me. And it's like, oh well, you kind of forgot the point right there at the end, Doctor, of all these things you were doing to avoid this outcome.
And this is a very interesting topic to bring up. His idea of pacifism. Yeah. I can't speak. But yeah, this is directly leads into what we're going to be covering in 2 weeks with Survival. It's all about the Doctor being a pacifist. So
interesting.
Good thing to bring up because it's going to be talked about next week.
Yeah. But the episode is now, they've beaten the enemy, and it's only the first half. There's a whole other half of an episode to go.
It's like Return of the King.
Literally. Yeah, where it just feels like it should be over. It just keeps ending. And we do get several endings. We get Alison in the TARDIS with the Master being like, oh, you're going to travel with us now. It's going to be fun. The Doctor's like, he's going to be obsessed with you or something another. And she's about to find out some stuff about the Doctor because she's like, oh, he's in exile. He's like hiding from something. Like, what's going on? But then the Doctor shows up in an elevator in the TARDIS. I like that. That's fun. An elevator door in the TARDIS. That's cool.
And there's also a hang gliding room.
Yeah,
which is kind of fun.
I like when they hint at bigger stuff in the TARDIS and we never ever see outside the console room. But it's also, I think, our last time inside the TARDIS this episode. The rest of the time it's outside, and I just want to say for the last time, beautiful TARDIS. Wish it was in live action. Stunning TARDIS, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it's it's so simple as well. It's just like spiral and staircase, generic console.
It's
that's
got
all you
some,
need.
It's got some like Victorian steampunk aesthetic to the console. A nice green carpet on the thing to balance out the lighting, and it looks nice. It's smart. It's sleek. It's futuristic and retro all at the same time. It's everything you kind of want a TARDIS console to be. It's not just a big white sphere.
There also seems to be a light source coming from the top, there's like a sunroof or something.
Oh, interesting.
Seems to be a light source beaming on the TARDIS, which is really interesting. Which reminds me of the fucking TV movie, because the original design of the TARDIS in the TV movie was to have like a sunroof, and you could see the galaxy above you. I presume this is the same thing they're going for here, but obviously they can
Just
only
don't see
animate
it.
in certain shots.
I like a lot of the TARDIS designs. I was trying to think in my head just now, which one do I like less? Jodie's spider crystal TARDIS, or Ncuti Gatwa's big white empty void? And I hate both for very different reasons. One is too small and one is too big.
I would say the TARDIS from like the first episode to like all of Classic Who essentially is a fucking almost same TARDIS with just minor differences. It's the same.
The big white.
I don't like. I never really liked the classic TARDIS, apart from like occasionally in the William Hartnell era, where it's like a grandfather clock and shit like that.
Sure.
Like the occasional furniture in the TARDIS. It's always neat to see very early on in the show. But
everyone knows the best TARDIS is the first Peter Cushing movie, where it's just a warehouse.
Bunch of white,
they just have decorated.
There's wires everywhere. There's like a fire going to start any minute. That's what makes it exciting. You just never know when one of those wires are going to overheat.
But the doctor takes Allison back out into a rainy field in England, and he's like, God, I hope. Hang on, I'm going to sneeze. Hang on.
I don't remember that part. I don't remember him sneezing in the episode.
The rain made me sneeze. The doctor's like, hey, all this rain, there's going to be a lot of rain on Earth right now, and the English people are going to love it. I hope they don't try to colonize the whole planet again. Lol, that'd be funny. I'm kind of skirting over the fact that if it rained nonstop on Earth for days, there would be so much death. That would be devastating. That's such a devastating thing you've done to the planet, Doctor. Why are you just glossing over that fact? But this is basically, it's like your boyfriend's here to pick you up, Allison, so I guess this is the end of our adventures, unless, oh my god, she does, it's the Rose Mickey Smith thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally, it's almost exactly the same thing, except Unit are also here, I guess, for some reason.
The least interesting soldier characters that we kind of glossed over this entire episode. Who the fuck gives a shit about these soldier characters?
They don't do nothing. Yeah.
I mean, there's nice little bits of comedic timing and shit like that.
Sure.
But
they're fine.
I don't give a shit. They're fine.
They're fine. But ultimately, Allison obviously chooses to travel with the Doctor in the TARDIS. I never understand why the Doctor doesn't take the boyfriends along. It's so weird to be like, only you, Allison, not your boyfriend. He's not coming. Just leave him.
I mean, the entire time, the boyfriend is demonstrating that he's not the perfect character, the perfect idea of a companion. He just wants to stay in the same place all the time. He just doesn't want to deal with the monsters. He'd just rather sit and watch TV and just have the monsters take over the galaxy,
You take him onto the TARDIS and boom, you've got conflict, baby. You've got you've got a character that you can grow and change, from a sheltered guy who doesn't want to go out to an action hero who saves the world. I'm just describing Rory. Which is why he was such a good companion,
I loved Rory. Rory is one of the best,
He was great. He's legitimately a fantastic companion. And there's also a lack of male companions in Modern Who. I feel like there should probably be more.
Yeah, I mean, there's Mickey, technically. He's like a part-timer. Captain Jack is a part-timer. Adam was a companion, but never
in
was.
An episode, yeah. You got Rory,
I mean, he was in two,
obviously. Yeah,
Rory,
you got Rory, Graham,
Danny Pink. No, he wasn't a companion. He never.
Danny
really
Pink was hardly even a plot point. You know, like
he was in all 12 episodes of that season. Wildly enough.
Yeah, terrible storyline.
You have Graham and of course Ryan. Everybody's favorite Ryan. Ryan was so good. Such a memorable guy.
Love Ryan.
Remember when he couldn't ride a bike or climb that ladder? And then
he was really good at basketball, though. Was really good at it.
Oh, but then he could ride the bike at the end, and he rode it directly in front of his dead grandma. Ghost. Force Ghost. It's like that ending of series 12 was like the ending of Rise of Skywalker with just the ghosts.
There's a thing at the minute with Doctor Who writers watching Star Wars and thinking it's a good idea.
Yeah.
We Chibnall had that. Russell T Davies had that with Last Jedi, and you know. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot.
Even U.S. politics decided to look into Star Wars and like somehow Trump has returned.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, to be fair, like in the Star Wars sequels, like the First Order manages to come back again because the rebellion forms such an inadequate government that they don't, which is what you saw with the Democrats. They just fell back into the same old bullshit that they were in before that allowed Trump to rise the first time, you know, which is learn nothing and just hope you win again. Cool. But yeah, the lack of male companions. But there's not a lack. There's just, I would want, they're usually tertiary to the female companion, which I get because you've usually got a male doctor, so you want to have balance. But throw in another male. I'd like another male companion. But another female doctor. I don't give a shit.
The first Doctor had a male companion. The second Doctor do we count the Brigadier as a companion? I kind of count him as a companion, even though he doesn't really travel
in
with
the
TARDIS.
Doctor. Travel in the TARDIS is my... Do they travel in the TARDIS for multiple episodes?
But Liz Shaw counts as a companion, but she never traveled in the TARDIS because the TARDIS
I never said she counts as a companion.
I never said she can. Of course, the fourth Doctor had Harry Sullivan for a season.
Yeah, Classic Who was kind of good for it, but Classic Who also they steamroll through companions in like an insane amount. Like there's so many Classic Who companions I don't even think I know about yet. You know, every time we go back to watch Classic Who, I'm like, oh, who's this person? Oh, they're the companion? They were the companion for 200 episodes?
We haven't even reached companions like Vicky. We haven't even done Susan yet. We haven't done Vicky. We haven't done Susan. We haven't done Ian, Barbara. We haven't done Adric yet, have we?
No, we've not. I don't think we've done Adric. No.
God,
it's crazy
so
we've not done Susan. She wasn't in Time Meddler, was she? No. It was it was replacement that's exactly the same.
But hey, just throwing it out there, we probably need to do Dalek Invasion of Earth, Susan's final episode at some point before Series 2 comes out, just in case. I doubt it, but just in case.
We've been burned before. But yeah, that's the end.
An off-air discussion.
The end of the Scream of Shalka with the TARDIS vanishing into nothingness as everybody watches on, excited for where this version of the Doctor's going to go next, which is, of course, nowhere, because this never turned into anything and the show got rebooted just a couple years after.
A year and a half later.
Yeah.
This came out November 2003. The series came out March 2005. Less than 2 years later. Insane.
That is crazy. Absolutely crazy. But it was fine. It was fun. I'm very glad it's over and I never have to watch it again.
This is the first and only time I probably will watch this. It's fine enough. It's a very odd little curiosity we've just being discussing for 4 hours. It's perfectly fine. It's just it reminds me of when you watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie versus the pilot of a TV show. Wildly different shit, and it's dealing with the same universe, kind of the same tropes and all that shit. And it's like fucking Buffy. Buffy senses vampires. Her version of spider sense is she gets cramps and she knows there's a vampire nearby. But yeah, but this was fine, you know. It's a weird little curiosity. I think we've done all of the major Wilderness era stuff now, because we've done Dimensions in Time, we've done the TV movie, we've done Curse of Fatal Death. Now we've done this. That's all of the major Wilderness stuff. We obviously haven't touched on all of the Stranger stuff. We haven't done the Air Zone solution and shit like that yet, but we'll do it soon enough. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, probably. Next week is the end of the month, the end of November, and we will be live streaming, baby. It's time for the news. And there's, I guess, some news to finally talk about. There's not been any news for Doctor Who for a very long time, but we've had some leaks recently, which I'm assuming is going to be basically the only news story that we really talk about next week.
Keep an eye on our socials. We'll probably put up a post on YouTube to closer to the time where we will. We don't know when the episode
probably
will
a Friday
live stream yet, but
probably a Friday.
Maybe we'll see.
We'll see. But there will be a news episode out, and of course it'll be available on demand once we finish it, so you can watch and listen to it whenever you like, because we are available on YouTube at Who Watches Who. Subscribe to us there. We're also available in audio form: Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we are there, you know, so you can listen to us on your way into work, chatting about, I don't even know what we talked about this episode. I'm that tired, you know. It's cool. We record these after work on the weekdays most of the time, and it's the best. So subscribe so we can keep doing that. After the news, we will be looking at Survival, as it is 35 years since the show ended, apparently, as Scott has been talking about throughout this episode. And then we will be moving on to cover the story's Robot, the 4 parts, and finishing off with Joy to the World. And then that is the year.
Insane.
That's it. That's the end of the year. Isn't that insane?
Crazy.
I'm
looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to doing Robot, because it's 50 years of the 4th Doctor coming up, which is insane to think about. And the fact that Tom Baker is still here, he's like, how old is he now? Like 88? It's probably 90, 93? I don't know.
In his 80s. Yeah, that's the 90s, sorry.
He's so fucking old.
Baker, he is 90, bang on the dot. He was born the 20th of January, 1934. So that's crazy. Insane. He was born before World War II.
Crazy.
Yeah. What an old man.
Well, fingers crossed we don't fucking kill him for just by covering this story. I'm always scared in case we do a Tom Baker story, and then Tom Baker dies in the middle of production, and we have to do a short intro saying Tom Baker died. I'm always scared that's going to happen.
I'm always scared whenever I see a photo of him, because he's looking so old now, you know? Like he looked old in the 50th anniversary when he showed up, when he was like 80, you know? He was like, damn, Tom Baker's so old. And then, like, he's lost a ton of weight, like an insane amount of weight. In those 10 years.
in the 50th anniversary, it felt like he was on his last legs, and somehow he's still with us.
You know, to be fair,
he's still walking around. His mind is still there, so he's doing really well for himself.
Being able to lose all that weight probably helped him, honestly. You know, losing the weight and just being able to keep active and moving, a way of keeping yourself alive. But you know, maybe he'll live to 100. Maybe he'll live to 100. Another 10 years, he'll see the 70th anniversary of Doctor Who. which has Chris Chibnall come back to tell you that it was all a dream inside the TARDIS's head, or something like that, you know. It was all a dream K9 had one day, and he wakes up and it's actually we're back in the 10th Doctor, and everything else was just a dream inside K9, so that way they can bring David Tennant back again and reboot the show. That's the 70th anniversary.
Yeah.
And David Tennant is super old, but he plays the 10th Doctor still.
And we just have a obviously 20 years younger stunt double running around.
God,
We're done. Yeah, we're done.
We're done. Goodbye. Let's end.
Go home.
Goodbye. Bye.